It's press corps, people. I'm David Cruz. One election down. Ready? Vote, rinse, repeat. Also, Mikie Sherrill tries to red card FIFA. It's stoppage time, and the penalty kicks probably going to be on you. Oh, we got sports metaphors coming for you. Coming on press corps right after this.
Hey, we're taking a break from the show to remind you that when you like, subscribe, and share this content, you're helping us build an audience for independent journalism. Thanks for streaming. Let's get back to the program.
All right, let's meet our panel today. Taylor Jung is a freelance writer and contributing editor for NJ Urban News. Dustin Racioppi is the New Jersey editor at Politico. And Sean Sullivan is a multimedia reporter for NJ Advanced Media. Welcome, valued colleagues. So in District 11, Mejia beats Hathaway. Dustin, did we ever think it was going to be otherwise?
Nope. The question was really by how much. And as we're looking at the returns now, close to 95% in, and she's at a nearly 20-point margin over Hathaway. So that might be a little bit less actually than folks may have been expecting, but it's better than the last time, when Governor Sherrill won last time, and she outperformed Kamala Harris in that district. But when you look at the context nationally of how Democrats have been performing in some of these recent special elections, that 20-point margin isn't as high as some of the other places that they've performed.
Because, Sean, this is further evidence that there's a blue tsunami coming in the midterms?
Yeah, I mean, I think congressional Democrats in New Jersey are going to have to eventually come up with a plan for a reality where they can't just rely on popular resistance to Trump in New Jersey as the jet fuel that fuels their campaigns. Because I think we've seen a couple of pretty progressive candidates now really ride that anti-Trump sentiment in their congressional bases, all the way to D.C.
All right, let's welcome and say hello to Taylor Jung, making her first appearance with us on Press Corps. Hola, Taylor.
Hey, everyone. How's it going?
So we should tell people that Taylor started out as an intern and what was then still NJTV, and she has blown up ever since.
Unpaid intern.
Unpaid intern. Oh, back in those days.
Yeah.
Tell us what you're up to now and how it's going out there.
Well, I think just trying to still make it work like a lot of us in the New Jersey media landscape. I'm a freelance writer at a couple different places, one of which is NJ Urban News, which is focused on the state's communities of color. So folding in all the social justice reporting that I did at NJ Spotlight, since you neglected to mention that I did become a reporter eventually, Cruz. I wasn't just your intern forever. But
that fell under where I said you've blown up ever since.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that could have been like I literally physically
her head exploded.
Yeah. So still maintaining some of my beats, which were immigration, obviously, and covering government accountability.
Yeah. All right. Well, welcome. So your thoughts on Mejia's win? She won big like Mikie Sherrill, but she ain't no Mikie Sherrill, right? I mean, she's much more on the progressive side of the party. Yeah.
Well, I think that's what's kind of been missing from both primary conversations, like when Mejia was running against all the other candidates for CD11, and then also last year when Sherrill was primarying against Fulop and Baraka. I neglect to call Fulop a progressive, especially now, but back then he was technically considered one by some voters who don't know him. But if you count the amount of votes that him and Baraka had gotten, it actually overpowered, or it was more than Sherrill's votes, like considerably. Yeah. And I think the case with Analilia Mejia is kind of similar in that I think people, it's not just that they're rejecting Trump and that they don't want a Republican in office. I think it's that the progressives are moving the party left, especially I feel like since the main Democratic Party platform is kind of struggling to figure out what its messaging is. Some would say struggling to have any sort of conviction on topics that matter to people like Israel and Gaza. And so progressives are sort of winning in that space because they're saying, hey, this is what we believe in and we want to fight for change.
Believing in something is something that even the Republicans are doing better than Democrats nowadays. Anyway, all right. Let's move on to this week's and probably next week's and the weeks after that. Clickbait. The World Cup, La Copa Mundial. Dustin, are you a soccer fan?
No.
No.
I was raised in a soccer family and forced to play it, and I wasn't good at it. And I've just had a visceral disdain for it ever since.
Oh, good. So then I'll start the
Just a little
questioning with
psychology
you.
there.
Thanks for the overshare. It seems like officials are saying suddenly, holy crap, the World Cup is basically next month. I feel a little bit like we're headed to a repeat of the 2014 Meadowlands Super Bowl level fan experience, no?
I mean, that's certainly a possibility because it did happen. And although we've seen some improvements in the functionality of New Jersey Transit and their on-time performance and all that, there are still these intractable, pardon the pun, issues with things like overhead wires going down. Typically, that happens a lot in the summer. We've seen how many summers of hell so far. I mean, we're in a heat wave right now, and like we're just in the beginning of spring. God
Yeah.
knows what kind of temperatures they're going to be. So you have to assume that there's going to be some sort of breakdowns or meltdowns or something is going to go wrong. And on top of that, riders are going to be paying upwards of $100 to $150 to get out of the swamp back into New York.
Into the other swamp. You know, that's another one of the many things that people have been expressing concern about with the World Cup is the price of things. Taylor, are you a soccer fan?
Um, a little bit, sort of. I don't know.
Are
Maybe Ted
you?
Lasso got me a little bit. Um, but I don't know. I just also think what's missing from part of the conversation too is just like how ICE is going to factor into all of this. I think $100 train tickets is obviously something to be concerned about, the accessibility of sports for people at large. But then also ICE is going to be on the ground and we don't know in what capacity. And I kind of want to hear what Cheryl's plans are about that instead.
That's something that we have not heard of at all, other than when ICE announced that they would be at the games. Um, Also, probably parking for ICE because there's no parking for any fans. $100 tickets, closing Penn Station, tax hikes in the zone. Um, Sean, have at this Meadowlands mess in progress.
Well, this is, it's funny. We have a panel here of nerds who don't like soccer because my editor asked me the other day, "What's your interest in the World Cup?" And I said, as a sporting event, I have none, but as a spectacle and potential boondoggle, I'm extremely interested.
Yeah.
This is this is one of my hobby horses. If you talk to any economist about these large scale sporting events, whether it's the Super Bowl or the World Cup, all these pronouncements from the politicians about how great it's going to be. They're all paper thin. And so, it's an interesting dynamic you have here because you have a former Democratic governor who set all this up and was happy to do the glad handing and broker the deal. And now you have a different Democratic governor who's actually now, I guess, reading the fine print and going, wait, what?
Right.
It's a strange dynamic because usually you have the politicians in the lead up to these events being like, no, 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 it's going to be great. It's going to be great. Here you have a little bit more, you're seeing the anxiety and they're being a little bit more transparent about it because they think ultimately they're going to be able to pass the buck if things go wrong. Well, great, well, this wasn't our plan, But ultimately, I think the Sherrill administration is in a tough spot because they are going to have to own this. And best case scenario for them, I think it goes off fine and they don't get it, they don't get any credit at all. Worst case scenario, it's a disaster and it's Mikie Sherrill's fault.
Yeah. The lieutenant governor, I think I saw the other day, testify that the state's going to realize $2 billion in economic activity. I guess worth it, Sean?
Yeah,
I'm doing
I
this with
mean,
my hands.
it's the same magic math you see in the film tax credits, in pilot programs and stuff like this. I mean, I'm not an accountant, I'm not sophisticated enough to follow this stuff, so you sort of have to take their word for it. And so I tend to fall more in on the side of the economists who have much more conservative numbers than anything you're going to hear in Trenton.
Yeah. All right. I have to admit, budgets and really anything to do with math is that falls into my blind spot. I can't make it through an entire budget meeting. I'm sharing this with you in hopes that you won't judge me. But I know this is important stuff, so usually I just defer to smarties like Dustin Racioppi, who's gonna. Have you been following the budget process at all, Dustin? You must say yes because you're the editor of the
Well, since you just
Jersey
admitted that you can't get through one,
I didn't get around to it this week.
Well, the biggest one that I was paying attention to this week was on education. Got a little bit into the school funding formula, which is a whole other complex policy that will nonetheless probably wind up being some sort of argument or intense negotiations in the year or so ahead, because the new education commissioner and the governor have both strongly suggested it's out of date, it needs to be addressed. And at the same time, you have a lot of districts, something like 30% of them, like facing cuts under the revamped formula under Murphy. The other thing, as far as education goes, that is still unresolved is long-term funding for the school's development authority. That they were supposed to have a new round of funding put in place at the beginning of Murphy's first term, and that didn't come to fruition. And now they're running up against the clock and running out of money. They have a lot of projects and they have some money left to spend, but they need up at least $10.5 billion. And the CEO of the SDA said even that figure is probably pretty conservative. So we're talking about a boatload of money that we need for schools.
And there's zero money allocated for it now, correct? For new schools?
There's money sort of left over from the Murphy administration. So they're kind of riding on fumes, for lack of a better term. So they can't really plan forward. They can finish off what they have lined up, but you can't plan for new projects. And that's something that members of the budget committee raised some red flags about, because we do have schools that are 100, 110 years old, crumbling, heat, ventilation issues. They sorely need to be addressed.
Yeah. Sean, with this expected windfall from the world's most watched sporting event on the way, our streets should be paved in platinum and everyone should be getting an anchor check, no?
You would think, but I've been once again, I think the budget is a broader thing that you're seeing with the Murphy Sherrill handoff with the World Cup. I mean, it seems like it's a recurring theme here lately with new Democratic politicians. You have it in New York City, you have it in Jersey City, and now you have it with the governor kind of coming in and being like, the math that we inherited is not good math, and so now we have less rosy math. So it's the other thing that strikes me about this budget process is Sherrill coming in with kind of taking a hard line on these quote unquote Christmas tree items, because I'll be interested to see if that is also an issue next year, or if she kind of just comes around to the reality that this is kind of how things are done in Trenton.
Yeah, you talk about those Christmas tree items. That's become a slur, really, because a lot of the people who depend on this, on these so-called Christmas tree items, are, operators of nonprofits who do incredible work filling in the gap where the government either won't go or can't go. Taylor, that you're around that world reporting with organizations like that who serve the most underserved. Is there genuine concern in that community when it comes to what's in and not in the budget?
Well, I think one thing top of mind for folks is restoring the opioid settlement funding, the 45 million that was diverted last year to hospitals, mainly because it will say, I think, a lot about Cheryl's character and her beliefs and, her relationships, especially with harm reduction organizations, and how much does she actually care, as she says she does, about these groups. Because that was a move last year, as we all know, that took everyone by surprise. And I think it's kind of almost the epitome of how some of these Christmas tree items, or if you can even call that one that, budget decisions, how those are made behind closed doors without transparency. Um, and so people are still pushing for her to restore that money in this budget. So I think that people are optimistic, but I also think that, it's yet to be seen whether or not that money will be included there.
Yeah, you talk about your social justice beat. What has Mikie Sherrill shown in that department yet, if anything?
I'm still kind of holding out. I don't know. Especially because I focus on, as I said, government accountability. I don't ever want to say I love a politician. So I feel like I need to see how the full budget process goes before I give her a grade there necessarily. But there's not anything that I feel like super either impressed by or, I'm like shocked and like disgusted by either at the same
Right.
time. It's just kind of status quo in
A
that
little, a little
regard.
early yet. We haven't had the first 100 days for her to really show a lot. Um, she did get in her radio show the debut of Ask the Governor or Ask Governor Sherrill. I can't remember exactly what the name of it is, but it's an Ask the Chief Executive call-in show, debuted this week, hosted by Michael Hill, our friend and colleague. Sean, how'd that go?
I think she had a better performance than I expected. I think that this is a challenge for her a little bit, of the kind of natural language stuff. She's a bit of a wonk. I remember I was in charge of cutting videos after we did interviews with either candidate, and the length of the sound bites was, it was there. So I think. I think you mentioned before this, there was, some of these questions seemed a little convenient. I really pity the screeners in this process, because you think about this, you have every advocate in New Jersey is like seeing an in to get their question, and what you really want is questions from like real people about,
Right.
kitchen table issues. And not to say that activists aren't real people, but the lines get a little blurry. But I think overall she held her own. I like these setups. I think increasingly the politicians are kind of putting themselves away and controlling their message in a way that I find both bad for democracy and extremely cringe. And so any opportunity to just have folks kind of call them up and yell at them, I love that.
Activists are people too, man. Taylor, we all love Michael Hill, but that's a hard show to pull off when the guest is kind of keeps everything close to the vest. This guest particularly, do they need some prank calls maybe?
I don't know. I agree with Sean. I think she's still finding her voice. I see a lot of the social media clips too that they're putting out of her, especially the one that was talking about the World Cup and the 48 million price tag that it'll cost to, make sure the transit's running smoothly. And, I think like when I saw that video of her talking about it, like she's getting better, and I'm not gonna insult her in any way. I think it's a tough job sometimes, to also be a good communicator. But now that she is in this position, like she's gonna learn, she's gonna need to have to be. And hopefully this show is a way to like get her a little bit more off the
A little
cuff,
loose.
finding her voice, finding her personality, but also, she'll probably still be scripted in some ways. But yeah, it is a tough thing to put together. And I think Michael Hill is a good person to do it though, because he'll be able to read what her energy is.
Because Michael's a freaking gentleman who can still get beyond that nice, comfortable veneer and strike a good question.
Exactly.
Um, Dustin, I feel like somebody has to tell her that it's the cost of living and not the cost of living.
Yeah, I mean, it, yeah, kind of shiver every time I hear, like, she just got this
You
not New
can't blame
Jersey
someone
accent.
for their
Yeah, yeah.
accent, but it can still be a little irritating.
I mean, she can't help it, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
We did have a governor um, in Tom Kaine, who sounded like he was from the streets of Boston.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and,
Perfect.
Phil Murphy obviously wasn't from here. So we can't hold that against her.
Yeah.
At the same time, that doesn't mean we can't cringe when we hear her say cost of living.
Okay, good. Thank you for Did some of the calls sound planted to you?
Yeah, I agree with Sean. I mean, like some of them
Sean's
did
like,
sound
I
like
didn't
a little
say
bit
it.
right.
That was
I
David's
didn't say
suggestion. I was
it.
just agreeing with him.
This average Joe is like so deeply knowledgeable on like this really, nuanced policy. But
You
that
can
happens.
tell.
I don't. I mean, it's happened to every governor in the past. So I don't know. I'm with Sean again. I pity the screener. That's a tough job.
Man, if I'm governor, I'm planting every one of those calls. Come on. Let's stick with WNYC, which was one of the broadcasters of this radio show. On the Brian Lara show and in Gothamist, there were segments on funding of public media in New Jersey, which is something that now we're starting to talk a little bit more about. They asked rhetorically, should government be in the business of funding public media? I'll ask each of you, do you think the government should be funding public media in New Jersey, and how much? 5 million, 10 million, 15 million? You can say more or you can say less. We'll start with you, Taylor. What kind of support, if any, do you think there should be for public media in New Jersey?
Is it a conflict of interest if I answer
Yeah,
this
we should
question?
say that. We should all say, at least you and I should say that we're not totally disinterested. We did put in some time. We are what you might call public media survivors. But go ahead.
Yes, emphasis on that. I don't know. I It's a tough question. I do think that they should maintain it and it's in their best interest. But I think that the whole media industry in general, not just public media, is wondering like how will we continue being funded doing the work that we do? Like what how do we bring in revenue? Is it new subscribers, advertising? Is it, just philanthropic donations? I think it's going to need I think state could be like a piece of it, but we're gonna need way more than state funding to maintain public media and
Yeah.
media in general.
So how much should the state contribute? 5, 10,
Uh,
or 15?
man, I don't know. Should I put a number to this? I'll just go in the middle and say 10.
Nobody is watching, so
Sure, 10. Let's go with 10.
10. Sean, you seem like a guy perfectly transforming his talents for the future of what public media could look like. Because it's not going to be the nightly news. I mean, you can't sustain it like that. It's a different model, different ways of communicating now, no?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm trying to get out ahead of it and just get on the social media and panhandle for my living now. But
Amen,
yeah,
brother.
yeah, I think, yeah, I do think, I think public media is such a crucial part of the media ecosystem. I know that like I have, as a media consumer, I've always relied on public media. I've spent my entire career working in commercial media, but I have deep reverence for the work of like public radio and public television journalists. I do think it's a little bit fussy. I do think that they should throw $10 million at them and give me 6 figures so that I could, as a consultant, so that I can teach you how to sound like a guy that knows how to change a tire. David, you sound like a normal human being. NJPBS is good, but public media in general, a little picky's out. And so I think that does have downstream effects on reputation and funding like that. I think that the government is in the business of funding everything. The government is in the business of subsidizing cruise missiles. The government is in the business of subsidizing charter schools. The government is in the business of subsidizing all sorts of commercial enterprises. The government
Netflix.
is in the business of creating propaganda on TikTok and Twitter and Facebook now. So the idea that, I think that, we're far past the time where we can be really precious about our funding sources, right? I
Yeah.
mean, like half our colleagues are cutting commercials now. That's something that, would be like, no, I don't do that.
Yeah.
So, I think that the better idea is to put safeguards in place so that the politicians in charge of cutting these checks, can't put their hand in. And I think that there are mechanisms to do that. Unfortunately, you got to once you put those mechanisms in place, I think you have to be vigilant about
Yeah.
them because
We forced the number out of Taylor. 5, 10, or 15 from you.
15, give them 20.
Give it. Yeah.
Media literacy all over classes all over New Jersey. Throw money at it. We throw money at way worse stuff.
Nice. It's true. Dustin, 5, 10, or 15 million?
No, I'm going with 20.
20.
Yeah, let's go up to 25.
Yeah.
But I mean, I agree with both. I think that we definitely
You
have to
think
have
the
safeguards.
public? You think the public is as gung ho for public media as we all seem to be?
No, unless you see somebody with those bumper stickers that like they're a public radio nerd or somebody's got a WNYC tote bag at Whole Foods.
In my experience, the
Generally,
public is scandalized whenever they find out how anything makes money.
yeah. The argument for government subsidizing in some way the public media landscape is because there isn't as much public interest. They're fulfilling something, they're making people eat their vegetables. Most people want candy and cheeseburgers.
Yeah.
So I believe there should be safeguards in place. I think agreeing with Taylor that it's one piece of the puzzle, but it has to be like a diverse source of funding. You can't just rely on the government.
Yep, agreed. Let me stick with you here, Dustin. You got an update on the Seton Hall investigation? It's a story
Yeah,
you've
the
been
update is
working
there is
on?
no update. You know,
Again.
It's been over a year now. The original investigation into Cardinal McCarrick was wrapped up in a year, and so this investigation of that investigation is now taking longer than the original investigation. So wrap your head around that one.
All right, we'll stay on that. Is there still a Monica McIver case, Taylor? I thought they dismissed that.
Well, last I saw 2 weeks ago, she's still trying to get the charges dismissed. I think we're seeing now is it almost feels like a lone fight. I won't say lone because I know that there are a lot of social justice advocates who are backing her and supporting her. But she's really still being made an example of at this point by the Trump administration.
Yeah. Sean, you had a piece on farmland tax assessments. I want to know because I'm trying to put some stuff in my backyard.
Oh, you don't have enough property, David. I mean, the hack here is you need at least 5 acres. I did a little video with Jack Curtis, who might be familiar to folks here. He's the guy in Mendham. He's a retired principal who has like made this his Roman Empire. He handed me all of the documents that he had gotten here, and I think he's a really interesting story because speaking of Ask the Governor, he's the guy who went on Ask the Governor and confronted Murphy about this and got put on a committee. And so for folks who aren't familiar, New Jersey has a farmland tax assessment for real farmers because if we've taxed farmland the way we tax mall parking lots, they'd all be AI data centers by now, right?
Yeah.
But what we found is that over the years is that this is also very popular with rich people who have 20 acres and put a couple beehives on it.
Bruce Springsteen. Sorry.
Bruce, there are legitimate ways to do this. I've heard that Springsteen actually leases to like his horse farm. So like you can do.
Okay.
There are rich people doing legitimate agriculture, but there are also corporate developers who are just sitting on developments by planting a couple trees or something. And, oh, this is a farm until things turn and we can flip it. So it's one of those loopholes where as Jack told me, the politicians were pretty blunt with him. Like this would cut off a real funding stream for us if we were to piss off these folks.
Yeah. All right, press corps is done for the week. Taylor Jung, Dustin Racioppi, Sean Sullivan. Good to see you all. Thank you, and thanks to all of you for streaming, liking, and subscribing. I'm David Cruz. We'll see you next week.